Howdy, guys, and welcome to the recaps of Survivor Season 42. And welcome to Cliff Notes Broadcasting from somewhere a long way away from the Survivor Island. Hope y'all are doing fantastic. Now, here's how it's going to work this season. Much like last season, after every episode, I'm going to try to give a little recap of what happened, talk a little bit about what actually happened, but also throw out some of my opinions on the strategies, who's doing well, who's maybe not doing so well, expectations going forward, all of that. I'm going to try to keep it to about 15 or 20 minutes. So no need to watch 3 hours of analysis of a 1 hour episode. We'll keep it short, but I'm going to try to do that, drop it every Wednesday night, Thursday morning throughout the entire season. I'm really excited about this season. I'm so looking forward to it. But before we get to the first episode itself, I thought it was worthwhile to go in and do a real quick preview of all the cast members, talk about things I think are good about them, things that may cause some problems with them, who I'd align with, who I'd be a little nervous about aligning with, and we're going to do it quick. I'm going off of nothing more than the official bios that were posted by CBS, so no insider information or anything like that, just a real quick, very first look review of each cast member. And what's really fun about this one is seeing how many of them I got right, how many cast members I got wrong. I did the same thing last season. There were a few people that I kind of had figured out before the season even started, but there's also a few that surprised me. And that's the beauty about reality TV. It's the beauty about Survivor, is the people that don't adhere to the stereotypes that we throw at them to begin with, and they prove us all wrong. So with that being said, let's talk about the 16 contestants. 16? I think we actually have 18 contestants this season. I'm thinking back to my Big Brother days. 18 new, all new, 18 castaways. So who do we have this season? Now, first of all, before we go any further than that, I gotta say, I really like the cast this season. I think Survivor casting does a fantastic job. We've got a cast that is full of diversity, not just in ethnicity, but also in age, in profession, in places they live, environments, everything about it. It's just a lot of diversity, a lot of different people. It's going to be really fun to see how they interact with each other. All right, that being said, let's start talking about the cast very briefly before we get to this first episode. So we're going to start in no particular order, just how it came up in the bio. We're going to start with Jonathan. Jonathan is 29. He's from Alabama. He works as a surf shop or something. I'm not sure. Something to do with the water, and he certainly fits that mode. He does a lot of work outdoors. This guy is a physical beast. He says he wants to play a lot like Ozzy. I see that. I absolutely do see it. He should do well. He's someone that I would immediately try to buddy up with because he's going to be such a strong threat. When we're working in individual tribes, everyone's going to want to hold on to him, I think, because he's going to give a lot to the tribe that he's playing for. So I would certainly be buddying up with Jonathan as quickly as I could. But could I hang with the surf dude through the entire season? I'm not sure. I don't have a good feel for whether he's going to have the surf dude mentality or he's going to be a little bit different. Just not going to find out yet. I'd probably start to work with him and then flip on him as we got towards the end game. This guy's just too much of a threat that you would ever want to go to a final three with. I think Jonathan is going to go long in this game. So we've got Jonathan, 29, from Alabama. Next, Mariah. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Mariah is 47 years old. She's from Indiana. She's a stay-at-home mom. I see her as being that kind of stereotypical mama bear that we have in a lot of seasons, that kind of holds a tribe together, that provides a shoulder for a lot of other people to kind of lean on when they're feeling a little bit down. I see her as a mama bear of whatever tribe she ends up in. Now, she could be in trouble if she can't pull her weight into competitions. I'm not sure from a physical standpoint where she's going to land. I didn't see anything in her bio that makes me think that she's just this physical beast when it comes to competitions. So she's got to be a little careful about that. If her tribe loses 1 or 2 competitions, she may be the one that pays the price if she's not careful. So I think that's going to perhaps be her biggest risk as we go into the season. Now, would I work with her as a fellow parent? With her being a little bit older than a lot of the other castaways, Yeah, I think I'd have a lot in common with her. I'd probably end up working with her and try to really utilize those common situations, common bonds we have to develop a little bit of a relationship with her. So yeah, I'd work with her. Next one we have is Romeo, 37 years old, from Los Angeles. Now, he mentions in his bio that he feels like he's going to be underestimated. He's a little bit smaller man. He looked skinny, small. So because of that, he may be able to fly under the radar a little bit because he doesn't look like a huge threat from a physical competition standpoint. So we'll see how that goes. Interesting, profession-wise, he's a pageant host. So with that being said, I would anticipate, knowing just that bit, that he's a pageant host. I would expect that maybe he'll be one that will work a little bit closer with the women as opposed to the men. He may have a little bit more things to talk about, may have a little bit more ability. I could see him working within a woman's alliance, for example, and maybe going a little bit further because of that. Now, the big risk with Romeo is he mentioned that he's a little bit impatient. He really doesn't have patience for people that kind of rub him the wrong way. And that may mean that he rubs some of his other castmates the wrong way as well. If he kind of speaks up, if he's not willing to kind of let people go at their own pace and do what they want to do. So that's the risk I potentially see with Romeo, is just not enough patience and maybe speaking out when he shouldn't fairly early in the season. Working with him, I have a feeling that Romeo and I could be friendly to one another if we were on an island together. But I also think maybe we wouldn't be the tightest connection either, and probably would be friendly to each other, but maybe not working hardcore in an alliance together as well. But again, that's the beauty of this, is seeing which of these people surprise me and who I'm going to be cheering for at the end. I may not even be thinking of right at this point in time. All right, next castaway we've got is Tori. Tori is 25 years old. She's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, hey, she's just north of me. Tori's from Tulsa. She's going to be a strong player. I think she's going to do well this season. She's into CrossFit, so she's obviously a strong physical threat, but she's also a therapist. And I didn't know if that meant therapist as in physical therapy or therapist as in mental counseling and all that. And I think it's the latter, which means not only with her CrossFit do I think that she'll be a strong physical threat, but if she's used to counseling people, I think that means that she should have a pretty strong game as well. She'll be able to empathize with people when they need someone to talk to. I think that should translate, hopefully, into her being able to read people a little bit more. I think Tori's going to do well. And it also seems like she's just a very nice, friendly person based on what I read in the bio as long. Now, another thing that she mentioned, she has competed in pageants in the past. Does that mean her and Romeo right off the bat have a connection? Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot for the two of them to talk about. If they end up in the same tribe together, I think that could create a bond that may go far. If they're on different tribes, that also could work well, because I think we're going to see some more of what we saw last season, where some twists and such that give opportunities for different tribes, people from different tribes, to maybe work together to gain some advantages. I could see Romeo and Tori certainly doing something like that. I think a lot of people would try to team with Tori because of that. I'd certainly be one of them. I think she'd have a lot of people to pick from when it comes to choosing alliances, working partners, etc. All right, next castaway we've got Jackson, 48, from Houston, Texas. Woo! Shout out to Houston, Texas. What an interesting person. What an amazing casting choice. We'll throw it out there right off the bat. Jackson is transgender, mentioned it as, I think he said something about used to be a girl and has tattoos everywhere, bald head as well. Jackson is, I'm very excited, very interested to see how Jackson plays this game. Now, he looks to be in good physical condition. I think he mentioned that he does weightlifting. He also loves to do puzzles as one of his hobbies. So seems to me, from a physical standpoint and from a mental standpoint, Jackson may have everything it takes. We didn't see a lot of people in the cast battles this time mentioning, they all talk social game. A lot of them talk physical. Didn't see that many people talking about puzzles, but Jackson's throwing it out there. So maybe Jackson's going to be the puzzle master of this season, and it'll carry him far if he is. The other thing too is he mentions at one point some of the stresses and things he's dealt with growing up, and I'm sure that's the case. Going through some of the stressful situations that perhaps he's faced, I think is going to prepare him well for the game itself, the stresses that are created within the island of Survivor. So I think he's going to do as well. And he gets bonus points for talking about Elaine wanting to play the game like Elaine. I love Elaine. I thought she's a fantastic player. I've met her in real life. A wonderful person. So Jackson, you and me both. I applaud him for talking about Elaine. I would want to work with Jackson as soon as I got on the island. The Houston connection, ages pretty close to one another. Yeah, I'd be trying to line with Jackson as quick as I could. So he seems like a nice guy as well. All right, next castaway, Chanel, 29 years old, from New York. New York City? I don't know, maybe just New York, but somewhere up in New York. She's an executive recruiter, so she'll likely have a strong social game. Executive recruiter, you've got to be salesman, you've got to be fairly analytical as well. I think she'll do well at the social game. She also appears to be a super fan who has studied everything about this game. Now, let me say this. Looking through those bios, who knows? Do you believe all 18? But if you go off of the bios, it certainly seems like every one of these players has studied Survivor religiously and knows everything there is to know about this game. A little different from Big Brother, where you get a lot of people in there who don't always have a clue. These Survivor fans, all of them seem to be super fans, but Chanel especially seems like she's really paid attention to past seasons and studied the game, and that's going to help. It's going to help everyone, anyone who's done that. There are several mentions in her bio about helping and watching out for fellow women as she's gone through life or her career. So I'm guessing based on that, she might be a little bit more likely to work well with the females or try to pull together a female alliance as much as possible. Just an initial thought. Based on that, yes, I would work with her, but I'm not sure she'd want to work with me when it comes to the end of the day. Don't know. But it seems like maybe she'll be focused on a women's alliance of some sort a little bit more based on the words I saw. All right, next castaway, we've got Omar, 31 years old, Canadian. We've got Canadians again this year. We got a couple of them. We'll talk about it. One from Montreal and then a couple other Canadians as well. Omar is a veterinarian. He talks about how he's dealt with a lot in his life. Now, here's the thing. Reading through those bios, limited words, but Omar really struck me as both very down to earth, but also funny as heck in his bio. He had some funny comments and such in there. So he may be a real fun guy to have around camp, someone I'd like to hang around with. He's a Muslim who, because of that, he might, between being Muslim, between being Canadian, he might sometimes feel a little bit isolated just because of his religion, his ethnicity. I think he said he's Indian ethnicity. Again, being Canadian as well. Nothing against Canadians, but there are only a couple of them there, and that could work to his advantage or to his disadvantage, I suppose. But I think there's the risk that he may feel a little bit isolated for some of those factors. But I also think that people are just going to like him. I'm cheering for Omar. I think he's going to do well. Now, he's probably not a huge physical threat, but that also might help him stay under the radar. So that isn't always a bad thing. As long as you aren't the anchor on your team in a bad way, as long as you aren't dragging everyone else down, you don't have to be the superstar on a tribe. You just have to give enough contribution that people don't start pointing fingers at you. And I think that's probably the situation that Omar is going to be in. Now, the other thing that he mentions in his bio that I really applaud, he talks about adaptation is the key to surviving in Survivor, to potentially winning the game. And I agree. You can go with all the strategies, the game plans you want, but at the end of the day, you've got to adapt to whatever twist, whatever tribe merge, swaps, whatever are occurring. And the fact that he's aware of that and is talking about it, I think that says a lot about Omar and his ability to survive at least through the middle game, and then we'll see what happens after that. So I'd work with Omar, and I would enjoy hanging out with Omar, I think, as well. All right, next castaway we've got is Swati, 19 years old. Big Brother, you can't even compete, can't even go in the house till you're 21, but not the case here in Big Survivor. think we've got a 19-year-old and 18-year-old. Wow. Swati is 19 years old. She's a resident of California, and she's an Ivy League student. So obviously she's got some intellect in there, right? She's going to Ivy League. Now, here's the thing. It's tough for me to say that Swati could be an early boot. And the only reason I say that is because in her bio, she talks about how she doesn't like people trying to control her, to manipulate her. And she considers herself to be very persuasive, and she's not going to let that happen. Sometimes whether they're successful or not, you've got to let other people think they're controlling you, just to go a little further in the game. And I'm not sure that she's going to be in the mindset to let that happen. She may bristle a little bit if someone tries to control and manipulate, as you should, or at least as I understand that. But she has said that she just doesn't like that at all. I think she might try, because obviously she's so successful with the Ivy League, being an Ivy League student. She considers herself to be very, very persuasive. I think she might try to steer the game early, and might just get a little friction when other people are trying to lead the way. That combined with her young age, I think may end up not sitting well with others. And unfortunately, if you're 19 years old, if you're one of the youngest in the tribe, there are going to be people who are going to be less willing to let you take the lead just for that reason alone. And so I think her age may create a little bit of an issue for her. But I'm waiting to be proven wrong, and I very well could be. As far as working with Swati, just because of the age difference between her and I, we probably wouldn't immediately come together, latch together as alliance duo. But given the right opportunities, sure, I'd work with her. Again, I think she's incredibly smart, and she may have a great social game. Well, she just kind of know. We'll find out. All right, next castaway. Hi. I hope I'm pronouncing that the correct way. Hai. Hi, 29 years old, from New Orleans and Atlanta by way of Vietnam, where he was born and raised. Data scientist. Not sure exactly what that means. Studying a lot of numbers, I suppose, data analyst of some sort. Now, this guy, he grew up in poverty. He talks about his family coming over to the United States with barely any money in their pocket, living in really bad conditions, and succeeding nonetheless. And High's incredibly proud of everything his parents have put in. Translates to a guy who's probably going to give all kinds of effort to survive in this game, and so I'm looking forward to it. He is driven to succeed. He's funny. One of the comments he said was that he'd like to play like poverty, but that he isn't nearly as hot or nearly as charming as she is, so he'll just have to make do. All right, I'm into that already. He says he plans to stay non-threatening. He wants to keep bigger social and physical threats around to serve as shields. Smart. Get those meat shields around you and let them be the big targets, as long as you don't wait too long and have those big threats end up winning the game. But he obviously is coming in with a game plan of keeping a few threats around and being the loyal soldier, so to speak, and until they get taken out, and then he's left to hopefully win the game. So I think it's a good strategy. It seems like he may not always be tolerant of others as much as maybe you could be. He says, I can't remember what comments, but there's one or two things he said. People who do this, that's just stupid. That you shouldn't be that stupid and everything. And so it makes me think that you got to make sure that you don't rub people the wrong way by calling out some people that maybe he thinks aren't making the best decisions here and there. Sometimes you just have to let it go. We'll see if he knows when to play low, or if he maybe gets some blood pumping by calling out some people in inopportune times. We'll find out. I think that's the one drawback he may have to the game. I'd want to work with High. I think he's going to be a nice guy, but I'd probably keep him at arm's reach as well. I think he's probably willing to flip on people if he needs to in order to forward himself in the game. All right, next castaway, we've got Lindsay. 31 years old, from New Jersey. I think one of two folks from Jersey, a dietitian. She is definitely a driven person who does a lot of physical activity. I think she's going to be a strong competition threat. She's going to be one of the stronger women, but perhaps one of the stronger alpha women this season. But she does seem a little bit loud, brash, arrogant, dare I say. I fear she's going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. She mentions in her bio, I'm not just throwing out that. She mentions in her bio that a lot of people maybe say she talks a little too much, or she's a little loud at times. You gotta be careful of that. I think she may, if she's too out there personality wise. Some people enjoy that. Some people stuck on an island, you're hungry, you're uncomfortable, you're cold. Little things start wearing you, I'm sure. And so she may run the risk, if she's a little too loud, of aggravating a few people. We'll find out. I doubt I would end up working with Lindsay for long. I just think that maybe the Texas, Jersey, little loud and brash. Maybe that wouldn't be my first choice in Reliance, but be you, Lindsay, and let's watch how it all turns out. All right, next castaway we've got is Mike. 58 years old, New Jersey. I knew there were two New Jersey folks in there. Mike's from New Jersey as well, a retired firefighter. I really like Mike. I may have Mike listed as my winner's pick prediction as we go into the season. He's a dad. He's a hard worker. Hey, he also talks that he's a pretty sensitive guy, that he's a firefighter, but he's also a very sensitive guy as well. This guy's got a lot going on. I think his physical condition may surprise some people. He's 58 years old. No one's going to expect him to be the competition beast. Although we've seen a fireman in a past season, Tom, who did pretty well, right? I mean, fireman, you got to be in good shape, retired or not. I think Mike's physical condition is going to surprise some people. I think it's going to carry him far. The wisdom of his age, I think, is going to help as well. He's the oldest castaway we've got this season. And I think sometimes that can be a disadvantage because it makes it a little tougher to connect with some of the younger castaways. Yeah, 58 versus 18. 50-year or 40-year age difference is sometimes a little tough to develop those bonds over. But at the same time, I also think he's got enough life experiences that's going to help carry him a long way as well. His only drawback, kind of as I just mentioned, if some of the younger players don't think that they can relate to someone with as many years as Mike has, that may be a little bit of an issue. But I think he's going to work past that. I think I would work with Mike short term, but I also think that he might do so well in this game that I would be hesitant to keep another older guy in the game if I was out there, and risk he and I having to compete against each other in the very end to make it to a final three. So as much as I like the guy, I also would consider him a strong enough threat that I'd maybe start whispering a little bit towards the end and maybe see if he couldn't go a little earlier than I would. Just a thought. But I really like Mike. I think he's going to do incredibly well. All right, next castaway, Lydia, 22 years old, from Virginia, a waitress. She seems friendly enough, but I'm not sure that she's got the physical or the social strength to necessarily survive long in this game. Combined with the fact that she's not the youngest, but she's 22, combined with a slightly younger age, I think it's going to make it hard for her. I think we'll see. I think she's going to need to find some other maybe slightly older, stronger players and kind of buddy up to them a little bit. Just as a first glance, I think she could be gone a little bit earlier in the season than some of the others. I'd likely not go out of my way to work with her simply because, again, according to nothing but just a short little verbiage in the bios, I just don't know. I expect her to last as long as some of the other castaways on the island. All right, next castaway, we've got Rocksroy. Wins the award for the most interesting name, the coolest name of the season, I think. Rocksroy, 44 years old, from Brooklyn, now living in Vegas. I think that's it, or vice versa. I think that's it. Living in Vegas, stay-at-home dad, Jamaican roots. I don't know that he's going to be a huge physical threat. Just based on several times in his bio, he talks about how much he likes to watch golf and visit and travel and watch people play golf on TV and all that. Golf's a great sport, but If you're watching golf as a viewer, that may not suggest that you're the competition beast as compared to, I don't know, if you're watching, I don't know, rugby or something else. But anyway, so I don't know if Rocksroy will be the biggest physical threat, but I do think he may be okay socially. Now, the thing that raises a little concern from a social standpoint is he made a couple of comments about how he's a pretty calm guy, except when driving his car. And he talks about how much he can't stand people who don't use blinkers and all of that. There's a couple of things he said in there that makes me think that there could be situations where he may end up blowing off a little steam, let's just say, and maybe having a little bit of an outburst that could create issues for him in the game. So I don't know. Again, I'm just going off of what he said in the bio, but that potentially could cause an issue if he's not careful with it. I'd work with Rocksroy. I would, but I don't think I'd get too tight with him, just because a little bit like, was it Lindsay before, Lydia before? I don't know that he's going to last as long as some of the other castaways in this game. All right, next castaway we've got, 18 castaways. There's a lot to talk about, even when we talk about him just a little bit. Jenny, 43 years old, from New York. She's a creative director. I'm not sure exactly what that means. She creates stuff. But Jenny is a Pilates instructor, so she should be okay in the physical competitions. She talks about knowing how to read people well, being a great listener, and a leader that people will trust. But she also described herself as very open and very direct, which doesn't always work well in the game of Survivor, where sometimes you have to be a little subtle and not so open and direct about your opinions about other people. Is she going to be able to keep it contained, or is she going to be direct and letting people know what she thinks about them? That's dangerous on the island when you're playing the game of Survivor. So I'll be curious to see which side of her takes over while she's out on an island. Now, she loves to travel, as do I. So I would use that shared passion to create a working relationship with her. But at the end of the day, she's a creative director. She's creative. I'm an engineer. I'm not sure that we would gel too well together, just because I have a feeling we look at life very differently based on those two words, creative and engineering, by themselves. So I don't know how well we do working together. But again, I'm curious to see how she does out in the island. All right, Daniel, 30 years old, a law clerk from Connecticut. All right, every season, there's someone out there that I predict may be the one that brings the drama, the chaos of the game. It could be Daniel. I'm thinking Daniel may be the one that is going to be somewhat divisive. People are either going to love him or they're going to hate him, I'm thinking. I think he may be the one bringing the drama this season. He's obviously very smart based on the words, based on the verbiage he used in his bio. There's a few words I still haven't looked up to figure out what they mean, but he certainly is an intellectual person. But he also strikes me as the kind of person whose cockiness, whose arrogance may very quickly shine through and be on display to the other castaways on that island. And you get too much of that, you get a little too cocky, and you may pay the price as a result. And I think Daniel could be the case. Now, his plan, he talks about the fact that he thinks he's going to be a huge threat. I don't know if he's going to tell people he's a law clerk or not, or if he's going to play a little more subtle, but he feels like he's going to come in being viewed as a pretty big threat by everyone else. Well, we'll see. Maybe, maybe not. But he's got an idea for it. I give him credit for that. He wants to downplay his threat by focusing very much on the goofy side. So he doesn't seem like a threat. So he's going to go in there playing the goofy old guy. I don't know what that means. But again, I think there's a lot of very good players this season. A lot of people who are going to be watching everyone else. And because of that, I don't know. We'll find out. Are they gonna accept the goofy Daniel, or are they gonna see right through him and see the law student, the guy who uses the big words and seems to be a little cocky in the way he treats everyone else? I don't know, but I'm excited to see how Daniel plays the game. Again, I think we're gonna see some chaos with him. Would I work with him? I'd laugh at his goofiness all day long, sitting around the campfire. but I'd be very nervous about working with them. I think I would see some disconnect and be a little concerned about it. All right, next castaway we've got Drea. I'm gonna say Drea until someone tells me differently. I may be wrong, but Drea, 35 years old, a Texan, a Texan from San Antonio, now living in Montreal, Canada. Hey, that's a haul. So we actually have 3 Canadians this season, but Drea lives in Montreal, Quebec. So she's actually in the French-speaking portion, little different from the rest of Canada. But Drea is up in Montreal. She's a fitness consultant. She's an All-American runner. So she's obviously going to do well at the physical competitions, right? That's who I want on my team. Put down in your resume that you're an All-American runner. Yeah, come right on in and join the Hog Alliance. I think she's going to be fantastic at the physical challenges. Her pet peeve is dishonest people, which worries. I get it. In the real world, yeah, no one likes a dishonest person. In the game of Survivor, sometimes you got to put up a little dishonesty just to get ahead in the game itself. And we'll see if she's willing to do that or not, because she does not like dishonest people. I thought it was interesting in her bio. She talked a lot more about her manipulating other people than she talked about having a good social game. That could be trouble. That raised a little bit of a warning flag that she's already going and talking about how she's going to manipulate everyone instead of just saying she's going to get along with everyone and be this great social player. It's all about manipulation, it seems like, from Drea. So if she does it well, she's going to go far. If she doesn't, she may be going home a little bit early. Now, as a Texan, I'd love to work with her, and I'd certainly exploit those roots and do some manipulating of my own and talking to her and trying to develop an alliance. But I'm just not sure, based on what I read with her own use of the words manipulating and all. I don't know how much she can be trusted. But yeah, I'd start off working with her. Absolutely. All right, another castaway, Zach, 22 years old, I think he's originally from Florida. Now he's in Missouri as a college student. This guy, again, lots of super fans in this season, but this guy seems to be an incredible super fan. Seems like he knows everything there is to know about all the past seasons. It's going to do well for him. He's also big in debate. He talked about in his bio. He's big in debate, college, high school debate. That tells me he's going to be a very persuasive speaker, a very logical game player, and I think that's going to work well for him. And he writes comedy. So he's obviously a very outgoing person, which is going to help from the social game itself. And finally, he's a runner. At least he put down that he's a runner. I put down as a runner on my Big Brother application. So, take that with a grain of salt. But he says he's a runner, so he should hopefully do well in the physical competitions as well. Drawbacks, just as with a few of the other younger contestants, I think being 22 years old, that may be difficult for him to gain some leadership with some of the other people in the tribe itself. But I also think being that age may help him and some of the others in terms of staying under the radar, because people are going to make a mistake and not treat him as big a threat just because of that age. It's a double-edged sword. If you go in and you're way older than all the other castaways, or you're way younger than the other castaways, both of them have the advantages and disadvantages. We'll see how it works out for Zach. I think on a personal standpoint, if I was on the island with Zach, I'd probably be guilty of stereotyping him when I first saw him. But I think after that, I think he's someone I would want to work with once I saw that he's a very logical person, which is kind of the way I think as well. So yeah, probably when he first came in, I'd see him as young as he was and all, and not take him as seriously as I probably should, but eventually I'd want to work with him. All right, next castaway, we've got Marianne, 24 years old, another Canadian. Marianne's from Ontario. She's a seminary student. Didn't we have a seminary student from Canada last season as well? Yeah, y'all remember her, right? Yeah, we've got Marianne from Ontario, seminary student. She may not be the biggest physical threat for the competitions, although she does snowboard. But I don't see her as being just the comp beast from a physical challenge. But she seems like a very nice person who's going to have a very good social game. There's just something about her smile, even just looking at her bio picture, kind of made me smile too. So I think that's going to carry through. I think she's going to have a good social game. She talks about some of her past situations in life, growing up and everything, that were difficult for her, but she did well. She has thrived in most situations she's ever been in. So I think she's got some wisdom and experience. Even though she's only 24, but I think she's got a lot of wisdom and background that's going to help carry her through some of the more stressful moments. Now, again, she's Canadian, so I'm wondering if she and Omar maybe have a built-in alliance. Could be, especially if they're on the same tribe together. If not, they may be able to work across tribe lines and make something happen as well. Drawbacks, she did mention that she talks a lot, which, as I said earlier with another castaway, sometimes talking a lot is, the producers love it. They want people who talk in these reality shows, but you talk too much and sometimes you may aggravate people. You may say some things that you kind of wish you didn't say as well. We'll see if she can keep that in check or not. I think she's going to be fun to be around. Again, I think she's got a great smile, and I'd want to try and work with her if I had a chance. So there you go. 18 castaways. They're going to quickly get winnowed down till we get just to the final 3 at the very end. I'm looking forward to every bit of it. So a few early preseason picks. Who are my early favorites? I think Jonathan and Mike maybe are my winners picks right off the bat, having not seen a single minute of the episode yet. And maybe Jackson and Jack is kind of dark horse picks as well. So what does that work out? Jonathan, Mike, Jackson, and Zach. I didn't mean to pick all guys. I just realized that, but they maybe are going to be my winners picks. Early boots, maybe Swati, Rocksroy, Lydia. I mentioned all 3 of those. I think may have some issues with it, but you know what? All of them may prove me wrong. I'm going to see one of these guys as my early pick, final winners pick, go home in this very first episode, and we'll see one of the others win the whole thing. And that's fine, because it's all about going off those bios. But those are my picks. So much of how these players end up depends on tribe splits, twists in the games themselves. And I've heard that this season's going to include, it's going to be a bit like last season, that we're going to have some shared idols. Remember those goofy phrases they had to say? I saw a little thing saying they're probably coming back, some different phrases, which is fun. I enjoyed watching that. So we'll have some of those shared idols. We probably get some more incentives to work across team divisions, where people get sent, I don't know, to the top of the island or whatever, and meet other tribe mates or people from other tribes and things like that. So we're going to see some of that as well. And then some twists that we haven't even seen before. As always, Survivor always does a great job of making a fresh new season every single season, even after 41 seasons. So there you have it, guys. Just a real quick assessment of all 18. We'll watch the first episode. We'll see how correct these assessments are, how I completely missed on some of them. And that's what makes Survivor exciting. Guys, I'm going to be covering about 15-20-minute recaps of every episode, dropping it Wednesday night, Thursday mornings. So if you would, please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get notifications when I drop those videos. And I'm looking forward to season 42. I love Survivor. It's going to be so much fun. I'm happy to have y'all on board with me. Guys, y'all have a great one. I will be issuing the recaps. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.